Okay, so let's talk about the board game thing. Why do I dislike board games? They take a very long time, and they are usually fairly shallow. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I like games that are short, and that's primary function is not just breaking the ice for people. Most of the time when you have a board game, it's not all the time, but most of the time, the purpose of it is to be an icebreaker for people who otherwise don't have something to do together. And that's super cool and helpful for the people who need that. I have games that I actually enjoy that can serve that purpose perfectly well. Kinma says the thing that slows them down is not knowing the rules. That is one of the things that slows them down. I also hate how much space they take up IRL and how you effectively can't play them yourself. So I am not a fan of them taking forever. It actively gives me a migraine. And because a lot of times their primary purpose is for icebreaking, they usually don't have a ton of mechanical depth to them. Even the ones that do have some mechanical depth, just it ends up falling by the wayside for me pretty quickly. The biggest thing for me, though, is the migraine. Like, I actively get a migraine when I try to play a board game of any kind, and I think it's because I already don't enjoy them. I also get migraines when I try to play D&D, but with D&D, I at least enjoy it enough on its own that I'm willing to deal with the migraine through that. But like sitting and waiting for other people to take their turns just drives me insane. It drives me insane in Commander as well. Like when I'm playing Magic the Gathering and somebody's taking forever for their turn, I just want to leave and go do something else. Like it just becomes a whole lot of just, this is a problem, please let me stop. Arkham Horror, so much depth, games take 6 hours. Yeah, no. That, I would hate that. I would hate that. Like, the kinds of board games that people who like board games enjoy turn me off of board games. Like, every word you just said there made me just violently ill. Old Gus. You get either the board game that has a lot of depth and then it takes so long to actually finish a game that it's physically painful for someone like me, or you get the one that has no depth and then it's just boring. I think this is why I favor card games as much as I do, because card games tend to be able to have a lot of mechanical depth packed into a game that can last 5 to 10 minutes. Like if I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh, that's a game that lasts a very, very short amount of time. If I am playing, let's get Wraith form up. Fuck it. If I'm playing Magic or Riftbound or Pokemon, like any of those card games, a game for them doesn't really take that much time at all. And I think that's beautiful. I think that is great. I think that my time gets respected well that way. Hype says, I needed board games to help communicate with people who are not fans of video games in an international community. That's entirely fair. I am not saying that you cannot have reasons to enjoy them or find utility in them. I just don't and don't. Both of those things. So depending on the format, Yu-Gi-Oh could literally take one turn, although if it does do that, you're spending that one turn for 3 hours. No, you're just letting somebody get a floodgate out, and then you're saying, okay, I see the line, I'm going to the next game. Said Monopoly is terrible. It is. I'm not a fan of Monopoly. We need to bring back the huge decks to teach these OTK decks a lesson. What? The huge deck doesn't win, though. The huge decks are bad. Like, an inconsistent deck doesn't win games. An inconsistent deck loses games, Seffi. No, we're not doing the big decks again. So, well, maybe it will teach those floodgates a how? But how? How will bringing a giant deck that once you get set down for a game, you will be unable to actually do anything because the floodgate deck is actually consistent and stops you from doing stuff? What? No, that doesn't make any fucking sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't teach anybody a lesson. They're still gonna set up a board that can't be broken except by fucking Raw on the first turn of the game. Said, how does bringing a deck that's so long that it requires 3 of your best friends to carry it make the game feel shorter? It doesn't. I'm going to take a guess at what happened. I think Seffi wanted to do the thing where you present a fun fact to people, but you don't take any time to consider how that fun fact could be enjoyable or taken in any way that is not confusing. I think that's what happened. Maybe I'm incorrect, but I think that's what happened. Sick, because that's the point, because I'm so sick of turn hogs. But how is a deck that will be able to do nothing on its turn helping here? What? You've not fixed anything. You've not made anything better or worse. You've just... What? That doesn't make any sense. So they want to constantly shuffle their decks, more or less stacking their deck. Who is stacking their deck with... What? Sephi, none of what you're saying makes any sense. And I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to play the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you traveled the goddamn states to go to different championships to try to earn your invite to nationals. And I'm very confused about what you're saying. I don't understand at all. I'm so... Oh, yeah, serious. Why does the Master Emerald hate spaceships? Eternal Turns is why my D&D group refused to play Psionics. Said, no, people do not let people shuffle each other's decks anymore. People do not let people shuffle each other's decks anymore? What? Yes, they do. What? I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on here. So they would have constantly shuffled their decks, more or less stacking the deck. If I can't be the best, I sure as hell can be the worst. Right. So like I'm sick of decks where where their floodgate thing is that it takes nearly the entire game before they turn you over to you. And then they even play during your turn. Right, but they play during your turn because there are things called trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you don't want people playing on your turn, you play Pokemon, because Pokemon does not allow for playing on the opponent's turn. It is a mechanic that is missing from Pokemon. My confusion is, again, I don't understand how taking an objectively bad deck against a deck that is built to turbo out a lockdown will help. The world where that makes sense confuses me. Because taking a bad deck to a tournament does not suddenly give you more game time. Said, oh boy, I need to sit you down and try to explain it. You've been doing... This is going to take a minute? Okay, sure, Sephi. Sure. Absolutely. You try to explain to me how bringing a bad deck... No, I'm not getting on call with Sephi. I know better than that. No, I'm not doing that. No, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit 5 ways from Sunday. Sephi can type this out. I am confident in Sephi. Said, although I do like the idea of synchro summoning because all it takes is math. Sean says, quick play spell cards. Last time I checked, which was back during GX, I didn't stick around during the playing on motorcycles. I can't drive. Sephi says, well, that was a tad rude. Yeah, it was. You are entirely right. I do not wish to be on a Discord call with anybody right now. I do not wish to. If you find me putting up a boundary to be incredibly rude, then that is entirely on you. I understand your position. I simply disagree with it. The Synchro is great. XE's got too generalized in the latest iterations. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Should not have done feature creep as hard as it did, but it definitely did feature creep very, very hard. Dragonic says, I watch a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, and the giant deck argument makes no sense. It makes no sense to me either, and I played that game since I was a child. Like, I am quite confused. And I don't know if it can be... I don't know if that can be fixed. Let's see here. Alright, we'll get that. That's fine. Terran Ambassador says, speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh! The shows universally feel like a constant stream of random bullshit, with a side of no stakes, because of course the protagonist is going to win. The stakes are too high. Taryn, which show are you talking about? Because in the original show, sure, but, like, the Pharaoh's power was quite literally the power of cheating. Like, the actual stated power of the Millennium Puzzle is to allow one to get what they need to win in games. Because the Pharaoh was considered a game master, so it is... His superpower is literally, I win at games. But, like, once you get to GX, Jaden loses plenty. Once you get to 5Ds... Yusei loses plenty. And then, once you get to... What was the one after that? The one in space? I forget about that one. And then you go to Arc 5, and apparently it's really good then. So my sister is currently watching 5Ds, I think the one with motorcycles. So 5Ds is what if Yu-Gi-Oh! And Marxism had a baby. I promise you. There is so much conversation about class consciousness in that fucking show. It's great. It has no reason to... It has no business doing that and being as good as it is, but it is fantastic. Sevi says, in a nutshell, it's driving the point home when more than half of the fucking game is your opponent taking and hogging things that I'm like, do I even get to play a single card? It's my fucking turn. Right, but Sephi, how does bringing a giant deck that cannot function fix that? Or solve that? Or operate as revenge against that? Like, yes, I agree that it's annoying that my opponent is able to play cards on my turn because the game mechanics of the game allow for it, but I don't see how bringing a non-functional deck fixes that. Progress is another meeting done. Unfortunately, one of my nagging constituents managed to secure 47 MAGA for their license plate. Jesus Christ. Of course, the pro tag is going to win. That's how most, if not all, shows are. Good guys win. There's no stakes in MLP because the good ponies always win. Shut the fuck up. I agree. I agree with Axo there. Sebi says, I guess fight fire with fire? I know it's not the best way I get right. How is it fighting fire with fire when your method is bringing a match that has been dipped in water to a raging bonfire? Because, like, okay, so what you're saying is person A brings incredibly efficient, incredibly powerful deck that is meant to shut you down. In response, you bring an 800 card deck that cannot draw anything useful because they are buried hundreds of cards beneath. It has no consistency, no power, no ability to do anything. So your response to not being able to play the game is to build a deck that makes it harder to play the game. No, that doesn't make any sense. No, I'm confused. Sebi says more who can be the bigger deck. Right, but how does bringing the big deck make you a bigger dick? That doesn't make any sense. What are you doing to inconvenience that person? I didn't have to shuffle your deck. Like, I'm fine with whatever you're doing. You're inconveniencing yourself. Zora says, what I was thinking was that the deck is so big the opponent never gets a turn one because they had to wait forever for you to shuffle the deck. Right, so that's the thing that was historically done in Yu-Gi-Oh! That caused there to be a deck limit in the first place within the rules. So to remember, you have to have some girth 2 inches thin is not going to help you. Just ask your opponent for their best cards and throw it off the boat. Easy. Fuck. So of course there had to be a rules patch to keep people from abusing the deck sizes. Sebi says, sorry, my laptop crashed again. Gotcha. Yeah, I was just struggling to square the circle that you were explaining to me earlier, and I'm still quite confused. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. So I guess it's just hard to explain. No, I think that your logic doesn't work. I think you've explained it perfectly well. I just think you're wrong. So, like, okay. Again, you're saying person A brings super powerful deck to table. Your problem is you cannot play the game because person A is stopping you from playing the game with their deck. So your response is to bring a deck that is unable to play the game because it is so inconsistent. So that's like saying my solution to being shot is to stab myself. What? You didn't solve the being shot. You just made it worse to prove a point. But you didn't even prove a point. The point's been scattered into the wind. It's not meant to be a point. All right, I'm out. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.